Hello everyone, this is Darren Kosasi from 12 Matthew, and today I would like to present to you about remote sensing and GIS, Geographic Information System, for my geography video project. So, let's get started, shall we? First of all, what is remote sensing and GIS? Remote sensing is the process of observing and gathering information without touching or visiting the area through the usage of satellites or aircraft cameras, which reflects and emits radiation upon reaching the Earth's surface. There are two types of remote sensing, active and passive. The active remote sensing produces its own energy and uses the internal stimuli to collect the data of Earth, while passive remote sensing obtains energy from absorbing the sunlight and use the external stimuli to record the energy that enters the Earth. Next, GIS. GIS, aka Geographical Information System, is a form of a framework that is used as a way to gather, manage, and analyze spatial and geographical data. The GIS is very important since the technology, policies, standards, human resources, and related activities are necessary to acquire, process, distribute, use, maintain, and preserve spatial data. Now, as you can see here, I have the perfect examples of remote sensing and GIS. As you can see in this picture, it shows the process of remote sensing with the sun, the atmosphere, and the satellite and the server. And I also have the active remote sensing and passive remote sensing examples. And over here, the GIS example, it has the spatial data that has been collected and integrated. Next, the usage of remote sensing and GIS. Remote sensing is generally used as a way to collect and gather data in the Earth's surface, such as hydrology, ecology, oceanography, glaciology, and geology. In addition, remote sensing can be used to detect energy from the wavelengths that can or can't be detected by the human eye, such as infrared, ultraviolet, and X-ray lights. As for GIS, GIS is used as an inventory and the management of resources, crime mapping, establishing and monitoring routes, managing networks, monitoring and managing vehicles, managing properties, locating and targeting customers, locating properties that match specific criteria, and managing agricultural crop data, addressing public health concerns, mapping wildlife risk and preparedness, integrating a remote sense image, and mapping, monitoring, and mitigating invasive species. Now then, we move on to the components and elements of remote sensing. Now, the components are energy resource. It illuminates and provides electromagnetic energy to the target. Atmosphere. It absorbs, reflects, and passes electromagnetic radiation due to the presence of oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen, and helium. Then we have the interaction between the energy and the object. It can be seen from the tone produced by aerial photographs. Sensor, a monitoring device installed on a vehicle, both aircraft and satellites. It is classified into two, such as photographic and electronic. Transmission, reception, and processing. The energy recorded by the sensor has to be transmitted, often in electronic form, to a receiving and processing station where the data are processed. Interpretation and analysis. The processed image is interpreted visually and or digitally or electronically to extract information about the target. And finally, application. The final element of the remote sensing process is achieved when we apply the information we have been able to extract from the imagery. Now, as you can see here, I have the examples of the components and the elements pictured. We have the energy source, which is the sun, the atmosphere as shown through here, the target, which is the ground, the recording of energy by the sensor, which is in the satellite. Then we have transmission, reception, and processing, which is here on the station. Then we have the interpretation and analysis through the computers and applications, which is still in the computer but it is applied as an information. Next one, the components and elements of GIS. There are at least 5 components for GIS. As you can see, we have hardware, software, data, people, and methods. Now, hardware is the computer that GIS operates at. Software, it provides functions and tools that process the information. Data, the most important component for GIS to integrate the data. People, the people manage the system and develop plans. And finally, methods, a GIS will turn out to be successful with a well-designed plans and business rules as a method. Now, the image interpretation of remote sensing. As you can see here with the example of an aerial imagery, according to Cowell, 1997, photo interpretation can be defined as the act of examining photographic image for the purpose of identifying objects and assessing their significance. This is actually true since remote sensing requires images to be viewed clearly in order to be used to gather data and information. Image interpretation comes in the form of photographic and non-photographic. The photographic version uses aerial camera, which can also be said as aerial photography. The non-photographic version uses a sensor from the satellite and is called as satellite photos. Next, we have the elements for images interpretation. As you can see, I have found at least eight of them. First of all, we have the tone and color. It is the level of darkness or the level of brightness of the objects in the image. Then we have shape, a qualitative variable that describes the configuration or framework of an object. Size, an object attribute in the form of distance, area, height, slope, and volume. Pattern, the spatial arrangement of objects in the landscape. Shadow, it hides the details or objects that are in dark areas. Texture, it is a characteristic placement and arrangement of repetition of tones or color in an image. Sight, it is grouped into a higher complexity and is related to the surroundings. Finally, association, the relationship between one object and another. Okay, last but not least, we have the advantages and disadvantages of remote sensing. The advantages is that it can cover a large regional area, it can easily collect the data, and it can locate any natural disasters to carry out a rescue mission. But the disadvantages is that it is expensive to analyze repetitive photographs, to analyze the different aspects. The image could be interfered by other phenomena during the processing stage. The instruments used in remote sensing may sometimes be uncalibrated. Okay, finally, the advantages and disadvantages of GIS, or rather Geographical Information System. The advantages is that it has the ability to improve the organizational integration. It allows viewing, questioning, understanding, visualizing, and interpreting the data into a number of ways. And the technology can be integrated into any framework of any enterprise information system. As for the disadvantage, it requires enormous data inputs amount that are needed to be practical. There would be geographical errors in the interpretation, and the software is incredibly expensive. Okay, I guess that's all for my geographic presentation video. I hope all of those things are let's just say, I hope those slides just now are very, very helpful for all of you. I'm sorry for making a mistake and see you later.